Quadcast Nation, we got the one and only Jacy Cunningham in the Heezy Wheezy. Oh man, did I ever enjoy his company out in Eudaimonia? And so it's a real privilege to have you on the show, brother. So welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I haven't seen you since Eudaimonia, and I must say that it's been a transformative time since then. So I'm excited to share some of the things that I'm working on.
Yeah. And maybe before we jump into it, you have a really interesting background, my friend. Like you athlete and work with obviously been a massive influencer, but how did it all start for you, JC?
Ah, wow. How did it all start? I think growing up in a home that stressed a lot about sports, we were particularly very fond of the whole journey of being an athlete because I'm the youngest of four and we're all boys in the family. So when you grow up that way, you kind of just have this consistent story of you got to be better than your brothers. You have to have something that makes you unique out of all of those four people. And sports became the most dominant theme in my life. It still is one of the most dominant themes in my life now as an exit out of sports, but into more of a just the life athlete, an athlete of life. And I think growing up as an athlete, that was kind of praised for that. I got praised for performing well. I think I received love from performing well. That became like the awareness that I had. You know, I'm like, if I keep doing this thing well, my family will keep giving me things and they'll keep smiling at me and loving me. So I might as well keep putting this effort and time into this craft of mine to sharpen it, to perfect it, to make it great. And I think the version of that it was then is different much now, but I'm so glad that I was raised an athlete. I'm so glad that that was my beginning. My beginning was working hard. It wasn't soft beginnings. It was hard beginnings. And I had a very cushy life as far as growing up in, a suburban neighborhood in a two-parent household that's still together. But the work that I wouldn't say forced, but the work that my parents instilled in me to want to put in is something that I still value to this day. And that's the reason why I am who I am today. So it started as an athlete and football, basketball, track. I think track was the start. You learn how to differentiate yourself as an athlete when you run track because it's just you versus the clock. And you realize, okay, I have a team, but in this race, this is mine to win or mine to lose. So you kind of have this pressure on you growing up that I dealt with the pressure as a 9-year-old dealing with, junior Olympics and trying to be the greatest athlete of all time and the fastest runner in the state and all these things. So having that pressure put on you as a youth, it has helped sharpen me so well to where I'm at now. It's given me that discipline, that willingness to work hard and work often. And I'm such an enjoyable version of myself now versus when I was actually involved in sports. So I'm happy that sports was a part of my life, but I'm also happy that I'm now looking at life through a lens that's just non-sports. It's like just life. I'm now just an athlete and I don't have a designation anymore. So I like that now.
I must say, what you mentioned about having the brothers and how sports defines you and gives you identity has been something that I definitely see, and so many good things come out of it in terms of how you overcome adversity, how you get this amazing work ethic, and I can see it in the way you built your career too. Like a lot of that comes from that. There's one thing that, as we were talking before the show went on, I think one of the things that you and I, at least maybe, have a similar view on is that through movement, through exercise, like there's healing there at so many levels. I'm wondering if that resonates with you, or if you want to speak to that at all, like how movement can really and exercise can really be transformative.
So I have this practice every morning that I do, which is 100 burpees every day. Now, typically it used to be just like throughout the day, just as long as I get 100 burpees in, I'm good. Now it's like a morning ritual. I wake up and that's the first thing I do. Before I even eat anything or even drink a glass of water, I'm on the ground and I'm doing burpees. And one thing that I can say is that we all have this invisible backpack of trauma and pain that we collect over time. If you've lived long enough, You've collected stories and stories and stories of good and bad things that have happened in your life. And you often don't know how to unpack them. We often aren't given the space to unpack the stories. We don't know how. We're like, all right, how do I unpack this? For me, when my career ended in football, I didn't know what to do. I was like, well, shit, who am I now? Like, I've been this thing my whole entire life. Where am I now? What version of me can I love today that isn't what I was, because I'm no longer that thing anymore? And I had to dig through all of these different narratives that I had collected over time of just a black man in America, of raising up, in a middle class family, all these just things, all these stories about being alive that had nothing to do with where I was at. And so movement became an access point for me, for removing those stories and putting new ones in, for releasing the trauma and the pain from growing up with certain pressure, or from growing up, in a perfectionist home, or from growing up trying to be perfect, and just realizing that, when you work out, it humbles you. It shows you your flaws and imperfections. You might not finish that set the same way you started. And it's like, you have to accept that. You have to surrender. And it's I think movement is so healing. And for me, it's never about just having, the ability to move. I think if you have a finger or an arm that works and that's it, move it. Like there is something about energy that gets stuck just spiritually, and movement is a great way to get those things to loosen up and to move through and to flow out of us. I look at sweat like bad stories getting out. I'm like, if yesterday I put some bad stories in, my morning 100 burpees is the bad stories coming out. And now I got this tabula rasa, as they say, this blank slate that I can now build from as a foundation for my day. And it just makes me feel so alive knowing that God has allowed for me every single day to keep doing this. Because I know mad people my age that played football that are like, yo, my knees don't work. My arms don't work. And I'm like, well, mine are working fine. And I think it's because I've been consistent. And it's not just my career, but it's my lifestyle. Like, I love working out. I think it is a space of such enjoyment of having something that most people don't even get to enjoy. Having a body should be a joy. We shouldn't be looking at our bodies like, oh God, I got another day with this body. Like, enjoy having another day with that body, because that body got you to this day. And so it's like, it gets me to be grateful. It positions me in so many ways that if I don't move, I won't see things that way. So it's like polishing the mirror for me is movement. Like if I wake up to a foggy mirror, I can't see myself. I can't see how loving I am and how beautiful I am and how beautiful my life is. I go move. And when I come back to that mirror, I see something beautiful. I'm like, oh, life is great. Life is wonderful. So yeah, I love movement.
Man, I gotta say this. That might have been one of the more powerful 2 minutes on our show, dog. Like if you think about it, I did a show earlier today on gratitude, and that was exactly it. Like, we can't take for granted the ability to move and the ability to do the things that we were able to do, like to have that gift. Because I mean, in my line of work, some people won't live another day. Some people won't be at home. They won't be able to walk. They won't be able to be functional. And so to wake up knowing that you get to move, you get the ability to exercise, I think is something that if we approach it life that way, we're going to be way more likely to have positive results. I think we'll end up being more grateful and more likely to achieve our goals. That's the first thing. And then second thing, that's sweat out your troubles. Man, it's so true. You think about it. I mean, this is what we were talking earlier about how you reset, how you after you had a busy week, how do you get reestablished? And for me, I was saying like exercise, going to the gym, playing hockey, and and that's powerful. Like if you think about the stresses on people on an everyday basis, our youth, all right, like the youth and their mental health state of affairs coming out of a pandemic, this social media, their phones, like this is the a strong antidote to one of the like to a strong force, which is their mental health and well being. So I gotta say, like I could never say it as eloquently as that, but you really like I feel what you're saying.
Well, because I'll say this: 2018, I'm living in Utah. I'm working at a company called Summit, which is a very interesting company, and I'll get into that at some point. And my brother passes away, so I'm in Utah. I'm living.
Oh
I'm about to
shit!
sign
I
a
didn't know.
contract
I
with
didn't know
Red
about your
Bull.
brother.
Yeah, so I'm about to sign a contract with Red Bull, and I have all of these things happening. My life is on the up and up, and I'm so excited. I'm living in Utah. I love Eden, Utah. I think it's a beautiful place. That mountain, Powder Mountain, is gorgeous. Shout out to Powder Mountain. And I get hit with the news my brother passes away. And so the only thing I could do in that moment was I went outside and I went on a hike. I was like, all right, I can't just sit with this energy and this information, and I'm not really ready to share it with anybody yet. So I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna go walk around. I'm gonna scream a little bit. I'm going to let these things exit so that they don't stay stuck somewhere. And that was the first acknowledgement for me of how healing movement can be. From that point on, I had to move back home. I had to be with my family, the thing that I was avoiding for a long time. And movement became the centerpiece for how my family and I gathered. My mother and I, she filmed me for a whole entire year of content, just filming me working out. That got me my first gig with Aloe. Aloe changed my entire life. So it's amazing how movement has always been this central piece to like the pieces that I enjoy most about being here. I think being alive right now is a stressful experience for many people. It's very angsty to just be alive. You wake up, you got bills, you got stresses, you have all these things that are hitting you in the face. So the opportunity when I wake up is not to go there. I'm like, if I know that that's waiting for me, if I know that there's a bunch of responsibility, there's a bunch of have tos that are waiting for me, then I'm going to enjoy the get to. I get to have an hour or two to myself. I get to wake up and move a body that works. Like I get the opportunity to do that. Now the have tos are already there. I know that they're there. I have to pay bills. I have to do that. Got to make money. But I get to actually wake up and choose me for an hour or two before I have to choose everybody else. And movement is my greatest kind of access point to choosing myself is through movement. So I just wanted to share that.
Oh, man, listen, I'm so sorry to hear about your brother. Like that's
Oh,
I
heart
can't
and
imagine.
heart attack too.
Heart
At
attack.
46, heart attack at 46. Crazy.
Oh man, what?
It changed us. It changed my family. It changed me. It made me much more intentional about health. It made me much more intentional about sharing the knowledge and wisdom that I've gained from living a healthy lifestyle for so long. It made me much more intentional about moving my ass every single day. And it kind of put some fear in me. I think it's natural that when somebody close to you dies, you're like, all right, cool. Well, what happened to him? Could it happen to me? Is there a precursor I have? Is there something in me that could, so I fought that for a long time. And over the last, I want to say the pandemic and beyond, I had to deal with just, the fact that, oh, you could just go any day. We don't get the opportunity to say that often. We're too scared to have that conversation. But I just know now that my brother passes, I'm like, oh, you can just be here one day and the next day you could just not be here in the physical. You could just not have no more flesh anymore. And so it's like, all right, cool. Well, if that's the case, then I'm going to make sure that not only do I take care of my flesh, but I take care of what's inside that flesh. Because if I don't take care of what's inside that flesh and only concern what's the outside, then I'm missing the point. And my brother and many people in my life, we've all kind of had families that raised us in a certain standard of American just society. And so the food and the sugars and sweets and certain things that we got addicted to growing up, we still fight as we age. And so I'm sure he was fighting that, as we all do. And he wasn't winning that battle. And so for me, I make sure that I don't look at it as a battle anymore. I just make sure that every single day I wake up and I have boot and feet on the ground, that I'm excited to be here. Because I don't know. This might be my last day. This might be my last conversation. Who knows? But as long as I'm enjoying that, as long as I'm sharing that enjoyment with others, then I feel like there's no reason not to enjoy being here. So, yeah.
So obviously, bringing that positive energy, that mindset, has been an important part of you. I guess just out of curiosity, how else have you tried to advocate for healthy living? Like obviously, we see your social media and everything. We'll talk about your website and everything at some point. But how's that looking?
I think, you know, I've often understood that we can't take care of the world until we take care of ourselves. We can't scream out in the world, do all these things until we're doing the things that we're screaming out to the world to do. And so for me, I think I have a morning marriage practice that I do every day. I wake up and do the same 3 or 4 things every single morning. I've been doing that for the last 6 to 7 years. I wake up, I meditate, I journal, I move. I think those 3 elements are so worthy of attention in our day. If you have a stressful moment, you can write it down. You don't have to keep it. We're so used and so kind of adjusted to keeping all the bullshit. Like everything that happens, we're like, more of it. Let's keep it. Give me more. And so we have a certain resistance to letting things go. Over time, if you just get stuck to keeping so much shit, you start hoarding. And that's what happens. I realize many humans would get stuck in hoarding our bad emotions, hoarding those bad experiences, so that we have a reason to be angry at the world, or so we have a reason to not be what we think we are, to not be the great thing that we want to be, to not have the dreams yet met. We have a reason for that. I can't get there, or I don't have the money, or I grew up this way, or my dad used to beat me. Like there's always a story to cover up why we're not the thing that we believe ourselves to be. I just choose to wake up and do certain things so that I can at least position myself to see myself through loving eyes. Because if I wake up and I hate myself right away, or I hate my life, or I hate anything in it, then I might have a fucked up day. Excuse my language. I'm going to have a terrible day. And so I have to position myself correctly every morning. And it's a practice that extends to anywhere I am in the world. If I'm in Egypt somewhere, I can meditate, I can journal, and I can move. I can do that anywhere, and that costs nothing. A journal is $2. You can go to the dollar store and get 5 of them right now for $5. You can, meditation requires nothing but you to just shut the hell up. And movement is something that even when, like I say, because I deal with family members that don't have, the limbs I have, that don't have the abilities I have. If you have something, if you have anything that moves, if you got a neck that moves, if you have anything that can move in that way, just move it. Just move it. And that's why I think, for me, the writing down my emotions and writing down all my stories, that moves my feelings a bit. That moves all of that negativity, that kind of transmutates that negativity into positivity. That meditation is me realizing that, wow, I'm getting to the point where I love meditating so much. I hate waking up out of meditation. I was 30 minutes deep today. I woke up like, fuck, And then the movement piece is just such a necessary element of understanding how those stories that we even write about, or those stories that we may think about in meditation, we have to move them through. We have to let them go from our head down to our heart, down to our legs. Like let those thoughts and emotions, let them move and kind of sift through. And that practice has given me so much joy every day. Like I hate seeing how stressful the world has become for most people. Most people wake up and they're just like, man, fuck. You ask somebody how their day is, they're like, it's good. And you can tell behind their eyes, they're lying. You can just tell people are just wearing that mask of like, I'm okay. You're not okay, and that's okay. And we can talk about why you're not okay, because we need to be sharing practices that help us stay okay. These are my stay okay practices: meditation, journaling, movement. Even if I do one of them a day, I feel good. And I think that accomplishment is also something that gives me some enjoyment. I'm like, all right, cool. I did something today. I might have a day where my life is just shit. I'm like, oh God, it's too much stress. The 8 emails, the people, But if I journal, I get at least the opportunity to get some of that out, so that I don't have to carry that to when I go to bed, or carry that to when I now have to go to the bar or get to my vices. It's like I get the opportunity to share in the enjoyment of myself through these practices. And I lend them to people often. Now, do they do them? Probably not. I show the same things every day on my stories. It's more of a remarkable thing people see, like, wow, he's consistent. But I'm like, just try it. Just take a piece of paper out when you get upset. You have a bad call with someone, or your mother calls you and she pisses you off. Just take a piece of paper and write down why you're pissed. Just write it down. Immediately following that writing down, you're not going to feel as pissed. To me, it's common sense. But we're so driven away from that because we want to be cool. And as a man, being cool is just dealing with your shit. Like, I'm going to just go to the gym and I'm going to go box. It's like, brother, you've been boxing and shit has not changed in your life. Maybe you need to box a different way. So that's kind of how I see it.
Once again, so many gems in there. I really appreciate the point of taking care of yourselves, being the example to create that change, right? Like you gotta put on your oxygen mask first before you could help out others, which I think I couldn't agree more. The other thing that came to mind too, JC, was like, what when it comes to your own practice of meditation, what does that look like? Because I know there's obviously different forms for people. They could do guided, they could do
Mhm.
focus on their breath. I'm just curious from your personal experience, what's worked for you?
I mix them all. You know, I really look at life as like an open door. You know, it's like I try not to close any doors. You close one door, you close them all. I really focus on like what makes me feel good. You know, what gives me that feeling of aliveness. And one day it might be transcendental. You know, another day it might be just like this morning. There were just 35 minutes of just sitting down in this chair, the same exact chair with this plant, and just chilling for 35 minutes. And I think I've gotten into a space where I can allow that now because it's an allowance. It's because once you go past 20 minutes, there's a certain threshold that I believe that meditation, like when you reach that threshold of just attention, where you're like, oh my God, I have to open my eyes. I got to see what's going on in the world. I'm thirsty for it. What's going on Instagram? Who said what on Twitter? Like when you get thirsty for that, your eyes open up and then you're like, oh fuck. For me, I've pushed past that threshold now for the last, I want to say month and a half, and I cry now. Once you get at a certain point, you realize that there's just this peace that you feel that's so unshakable. You're like, nobody can break this peace that I have right now. And so that's why I'm thirsty to not open my eyes up. Because I'm like, this peace feels so good. It feels so home. It feels like I belong there. And once you open your eyes, you're like, ah, man, I belong in this shit now. I have to do all these things and I have to create opportunities and go hustle and get lost in the sauce. And so for me, I just make sure that my sauce is what I'm getting lost in every day. So that, you know, when the world comes at me with anything that I don't enjoy, that I'm like, I don't like that. At least I like me. Because I'm not going to like everything that happens in my life. That's just life. I'm not going to like certain people. I'm not going to like certain places, certain opportunities that I have to take. There's just certain things you're just not going to like. But as long as through that whole entire process, I'm enjoying myself, then I have no reason to be mad at anybody. So it's, you know, that's what I just want to give myself no excuses to be upset at being here.
That's extreme ownership to the nth degree, which I think a lot of us need, is to take ownership of our own health in general, but our overall well-being. And in terms of the journaling, is it structured or is it similar to the meditation, depending on what you feel and what makes
So it's
making you
structured.
feel good?
That's probably that and the burpees are the only real structure I think I keep in my morning practice. The journaling is, I started with the gratitude letter just to myself, the world, the universe, God, whatever, just being grateful. You know, what am I grateful for? And sometimes the list might be short, sometimes the list might be long. Sometimes the list might just be I wake up and write down thank you. That's it. I might write down thank you 10 times. To me, it's learning and growing up in the education system of America. You kind of learn how to hack yourself if you really are aware of how they hack you through all of these different things they do, these techniques of getting you to stay in line, getting you to learn certain things. You kind of can learn your mind and how it processes things and information. So for me, I know that writing down thank you could just open up room for more gratitude. If I write that down 20 times, if I write down I love myself 45 times, eventually at the 40th time, I might feel like I love myself because I'm reading that over and over and over again for however long it takes to write down 45 I love myself. But it's like I use those things as hacks to get to the space of me that is hiding, because there's a part of us that's hiding from wanting to be seen. Our shadow side is like, don't look at me. I'm not here. And I'm like, no, you're here. And I love you for being here. You offer me the opportunity to actually dig into life. And I do gratitude letter to the world. Thank you, whatever. I do a dear God letter. That could be, you know, I just say, dear God, you know, and then I write down whatever I'm thankful to God for. I don't forget that God is here and God is real for me. I think that we live in a society that's pushing us away from a lot of this. That's like, go and praise other things. I'm like, no, I was raised a certain way. I stay true to that. And that's what I practice. And then the letter to myself, which I think that has been the most healing practice for me over the last 10 years, is a love letter to myself every day. Because I'm telling I realize how much dirt we keep about ourselves. When life becomes dirty, when we do dirt or things happen in our life that we don't enjoy, or we make mistakes and we do certain things, we keep them as memories and reasons as to why we shouldn't love ourselves. And I'm like, if anything, that's a reason to love yourself. You need to be loving yourself more when you've gone through all that bullshit. And that little practice of mine I've given it to so many people now, and a lot of people actually do use it. There's a camp that I teach at in Michigan, and they use it and they love it. That practice really helps me. It helps me understand the content of my own mind, because that's the hardest thing to grasp every single day. We can't deal with this thing. We can deal with taking the medication and making sure we work out and making sure we eat our food and making sure we do certain things with our health, our green drinks, our smoothies, all these things. But the thoughts are what frustrate us, and the thoughts are actually what fuck us up the most. You can be drinking green drinks and jogging every day, but if in your mind you're a fat piece of shit, excuse my language, if in your mind that's what you keep, if that's the thought that you keep, then that's what you are. So I don't care what the green drinks are saying. I don't care what your biomarkers are saying. Your mind is what dictates a lot of what your energy and your body holds anyway. So I've been really keen on making sure that this thing between these two ears stays sharp. Because if this falls, everything beneath it falls. And so if this is poor, then everything beneath it is poor. No matter how good it looks, no matter how wonderful it looks in the mirror, if this is poor, everything beneath it is poor. So I make sure that this is rich every day.
That's beautiful.
So,
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it sounds like it's taking some time for you to get to this place, but it sounds like a beautiful place, and a lot of information that I think that is valuable, and the listeners will appreciate. What about the movement? So I know we get that 100 burpees in every day, which I think is insane. You told me you did. How long you say you did?
It's 10 minutes. It's 10 burpees
10
a
minutes.
minute
Oh
for
my
10
God.
minutes. You know, if you do them fast, you get 10 burpees in about 20 seconds, 20 to 22 seconds. So then you got 38 to 40 seconds of rest. So I mean, it's not as bad as it seems. It's just you got to make sure you're keeping up with that kind of pace, and that's the hardest part.
Either way, dog, it is it's real. Okay.
I try to make it sound achievable every time.
No, I mean, I did it once. It was during the pandemic. One of my good friends, Pete Shaw, he's a CrossFit athlete, and one of the programs he said it's like do 29 or do 100 burpees for time. And I remember getting to like 58 and wanting to like drop kick a child. I was like, what the hell is this? Took me about 16 and a half minutes. And I was crying a little bit, grown ass man crying about exercise, which I should have just felt gratitude for.
Mm-hmm.
But what other principles for you when it comes to that movement? Because I mean, like I said, you're a bit of an inspiration, and I think a lot of people go to you, and especially on your social, and try and get ideas on how to stay active. But yeah, what are some of the other ways you like to stay active?
I still lift weights every now and then. You know, it's not something that I would say I do consistently, but I make sure there's certain ego lifts that I have. There's certain things that just keep my ego in a certain good place. You know, when I feel like I'm feeling weak a little bit, I go to the Equinox and I'm like, all right, let me jump underneath the 2 plates, 225, and let me see how many reps I can get, because playing football here, that's the benchmark for strength in American football. It's like, all right, cool. You get underneath that bench, you put them 4 plates up on there, 2 on each side, and you do them reps. I keep doing that. So I've consistently held between 12 and 18 reps for the last 17 years, which I think is incredible. You know, but I also realized that my movement and my body weight practice or my HIIT practice is very extreme. I kind of organize and program workouts for myself that are exciting for me. I'm not really in the space anymore to try to program for other people anymore. I've gotten into a mindset where I realize how much codependency happens in fitness and in the wellness and in the health and wellness space. There's a lot of codependency. There's a lot of, I need you. And it's like, you got to realize that you need you first. And if you're waiting for me to spark that energy of you realizing that, then that's going to take forever. And then you're depending on me to always be in my tip top energy so that you can be in your tip. It's too much. I don't get down that way anymore. So for me, I've really focused on doing things that keep me excited to move. Because movement at a certain point, you work out a lot, and as much as I do, you kind of get bored of certain things. You kind of like, I'm bored of burpees, but I love the discipline. I love the same thing every day that kind of, it shows me that at least I have that. If I don't go and do the run and do the pull-ups and do other things, I have my burpees that I'm doing every day. It's just a foundation to give me that gift of knowing I'm moving every day. Like there's something of movement I'm doing every single day so that I can't say there's a day I'm taking off. Because if I'm preaching that to people on Instagram, no days off, keep going, I have to be that example and I have to be doing that for myself. And it's hard as hell to keep up with that. I think that's the beautiful thing that I found in social media that I love. People can look at social media and call it what it is. I love the fact that there's an accountability of me to me every single day. I don't even care about the audience anymore. I'm like, I wake up and I share things that I have to do for myself first. I'm not waking up and telling anybody to do something that I'm not doing. I'm sharing exactly what I'm doing, which kind of prompts me on the days that I don't want to do it to do it. So there's a positive relationship I've gained from using social media, which has helped me kind of form a different understanding of discipline. Because now I'm like, I have an audience, but really my only audience on social media is me. I don't see these people. I just see myself. And so it's like an acknowledgement every day that you are still doing the same things that you say you're doing to do. And you keep doing it. And it's a pat on the back for me every single night. I'm like, good job. Even if I don't make $1 billion or $1 zillion, I'm impacting myself daily to impact others. And because it starts with me. My mom has always told me that, like, you can't expect anybody to do what you're not willing to do. So you can't tell people to go work out and you're not working out, because naturally the energy you're putting out is not going to match the energy they're willing to put in. So it's like my output has to match my input. And I got to share that because that's what I've created on Instagram. So it's a certain measuring up to my own standard of myself that I have to keep every day, which is why I am the person that people look at that way, because I have to. At this point, it's like I've signed myself up for it now. And thank God I did, because it's a healthy lifestyle that I've signed myself up for.
Yeah. And it's like having an accountability partner. It keeps you on track, which is wonderful. And I mean, for me, it's like whatever works, right? And but this is man, your feats are incredible. I want to give you a chance to speak to something we were talking about before jumping on the call. You mentioned working in as opposed to working out.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could mention elaborate on that.
Yeah, so Working In is a brand that I've fashioned out of the brand that I originally created, which was the Jacy method. I got tired of Jacy being the centerpiece of the method, because most people aspire, but I would rather inspire. I don't want people to just look at me and be like, I wish I was like that, or I want to be like that, and let me do these things to become like that. I'm like, you're your own person. I'm me. There's no other me but me. There's no other you but you. How can you take things that I've done or things that I've created, and how can they serve you as much as they've served me? So when it comes to movement, there's certain things that have served me that I want to share with people. When it comes to meditation and journaling and all these practices, I want to share that. And the best way to do it was to take me out of it, where it wasn't about Jacy journals and Jacy does this stuff. It was like, no, you can do this stuff. It's up to you to journal every day. It's up to you to meditate. It's up to you to move. And Working In is to me is a beautiful way to articulate what working out truly is. Because, as there's something leaving, there has to be something coming in. In football, as a defensive back, that's what you have to recognize. Like, if you have two receivers to your side, you have to know that one's coming in, one's coming out, given on how much length of the field they have or how much width they have. So it's like, it's the same thing in life. I have to really realize that these practices that I'm sharing are not just something that I've studied in a book, or I read, or I studied in college and got my PhD. Like, I didn't do any of that. This is all trial and error from just bumping myself up against life and just being thrown in the washer of being alive. When my brother passed, I had to figure out how to take that negativity I was feeling and to turn it positive, because I was Pastor Positive. That was my kind of name on social media. So I was like, well, how am I not going to be the guy to be positive when I'm the guy that says he's Pastor Positive? And I had to develop practices for myself to keep up with that name. So it's funny how I use that name as inspiration for myself. I created a alter ego that I had to live up to. And by virtue of doing that, I've now become that thing. I've now been feeding myself so much positivity over time, and just it's compounded. Where most people see me and they don't understand that it's intimate practices that I do daily that keep me this way. It's not just something that just happens. So working in is my way of saying, yes, you're working out. And yes, that may be great. But what are you working in? If you're working all these things out in life, if you're, because it takes something that you're working in to work out things anyway. Given the analogy of this life, when bad things happen and you want certain things to work out, how are you going to work things in to help the things work out in life? Because meditation, that's a work in that has a workout. You're going to be able to express yourself better and you're going to be in just more of a calm and serene state of being here when you meditate. So that working in is going to provide for a better working out. You might not feel the need and necessity to go to the gym and stay in there 5 hours because you have so many things to work out. So it's like finding that balanced approach to being well, which I think is what we're not often fed, because they're teaching us that there's just all these extremes that we live in. It's like either you're biohacking yourself to death, or you're biohacking yourself to life, or you're doing the IV drip, or you're doing this and you're not doing that. You're getting the B12 shots in the ass. Like, there's so many ways that we've been fed we're not well. And I'm tired of being fed that story. I'm tired of being told by every single article that you're not well and you need this thing to be well. I'm like, I need me to be well. If what's going on in here is not well, then I don't give a damn how many B12 shots I take. If I still think that over time that's still serving me in the same way, it's not. A lot of these things are now becoming fragments of our psychology. We're like, I need these things to feel well. I have never studied none of these things to a certain degree. I have been gifted the opportunity from being raised a certain way to understand the value of moving. For me, it used to be performance. I wanted to move well and move often, and I wanted to get to a point of being paid to move. I got to that point without even playing football. I didn't even do it the way I wanted to do it. I wanted to go play ball and make the millions. God said, "No, we're going to give you a little bit less, a lot less, but we're going to give you a better style of impact. You don't have to impact yourself this way. You don't got to put yourself in a helmet and go be a crash dummy for our entertainment. You can now go into a different world." And no knock to football. Don't get me wrong. I love football. I played football athletes. I love y'all. Y'all my favorites. But I think there is an opportunity in stepping away that lets us step into a new story. And for me, when I stepped out of football, I had to develop a new story. Football was over. That's no longer me. I can't be like, I'm the strong safety at such and such. That wasn't true anymore. So I had to find out what was still true. And what was still true is that, I was still an athlete, and I learned a lot of things from being that way. So now let's dig into that. What's going to be the easiest transition into being an adult? Okay, well, that's a gift. Us athletes don't see it that way. We get mad when it doesn't work out. We're like, I can't believe I didn't make it. It's like, listen, all that discipline, all that work ethic, all that time and effort, apply that to something, which is you. You don't realize how much of that has been for you. You thought it was for the team and for the dream, but it really was for you. And you've now gotten good at being that thing. So now you just got to shift that energy. And that's what I had to do, which is what I'm still doing, because at 36, I still have a little trauma from football as far as just, emotional stuff. It's like we all still have that chip on our shoulder from certain things. For me, it's always going to be football. I wouldn't say always, but it still is a little bit of football. It still is like, you had it. God gave you all the gifts. He gave you all the athletic gifts, and you couldn't get there. And I used to fight that story. But now I've embraced that story as a part of the reason why I enjoy working out so much. I love that it keeps me sharp, because I still want to go out there and perform on some stage. I still put me out there and let these muscles shine somehow. Which is, that's just a part of it right now. But I'll move past that at a certain point. But I'm still young enough to still see a lot of the results of all the work I'm putting in. I'm still young enough to still have the springs and still have the things that I never thought of. As like when I was 25 and 24, I'm like, at a certain point, these things are going to drop off. But because I've been disciplined and consistent, they've actually, I think I'm better. I'm a better athlete now than I was in my 20s, easily. So it's like, the consistency and the intensity is what has kept me the same person time and time again throughout the years. I've been consistent with just being me and serving up the same plate every day. I don't serve it up no other way. So if somebody's like, well, what can you tell us how to what do you I mean, I'm like, listen, I got nothing for you. I got the formula I use and that's it. Other people's way I don't know. I know it's been working and I want that to be shared. Like, I want people to try to do 100 burpees every day and just see what it feels like. You might get to day 9 and be like, yo, look at my arms, look at my back. And you thought that you had to go hire somebody and spend $280 a month to be fit and to feel well. For me, I want to simplify it for people. I want to simplify being alive because we wake up to so much heaviness. And I'm like, listen, God woke you up for light. He didn't wake you up to be angsty and heavy and hate being here. He woke you up to enjoy being here. And if it takes a little bit of work to get there, I'm willing to put that work in every day. So,
say just a pure inspiration. Just I feel like doing 8 burpees right now. Yeah, no, the 100 will come over time. But honestly, it's just great hearing how you've continued to inspire others through the way you've worked through your own trauma, and I honestly I feel like when people hear a story like this in terms of why it's important to take care of themselves, ways to take care of themselves, and and the, and the importance of just being grateful and how that could transform one's life. I think it's all beautiful. So I want to thank you for joining us on the show. And where can people track you down, brother?
Well, I have a website. It's working-in.com. And also Instagram, just Jacy Cunningham, Jacy Cunningham for those that can spell it. And yeah, and I'm living in LA right now. I'm in Inglewood. I have a wonderful lady. I'll share her because I love her so much. Her name's Madison, and she's beautiful. She's allowed me in her home. We are here. This is where I'm at, and I love being in LA. I think there's a service here for me, and within this community. So I'm excited to be here. And thank you. I thank Eudaimonia for bringing us together. I think that event for showing me, if I can be honest, how much effort and energy is to being put in just denying death, and just fighting that, which I found to be interesting. But that's another story for another day. But thank you for meeting me there. Thank you for allowing me on your podcast today. And I look forward to seeing you again, brother, somewhere in the world.
I have a feeling this is not the last time. By the way, actually, do you want a quick word on Summit? Because I've been reaching out to those cats too. Anything you want to say about Summit, or are you good?
You want me to talk about them right now?
Oh, I thought during the show at one point you said I could mention a little bit more about Summit, but we don't have to talk about Summit.
I'll say this, and then we can stop talking about all those things. I have a problem with elitism. I have a giant problem with people believing that they belong to something better than others based on whatever they've been raised around or who they know, connections, whatever. I don't like that anymore. I think a lot of these communities extract the good that they can see or find, and they kind of try to make it theirs. They extract things they love from certain cultures, from certain communities, and they try to make it, this is the Summit thing. It's like, listen, building communities separate from the collective and you guys having these interesting conversations and all these, moments that aren't being heard and shared with us, that doesn't help the us become the we. That doesn't help us all come together. And so I think I love that I've been gifted the opportunity to be proximal to all of this by being in these communities. But now being out of it, I realize there is use for having these connections. But at the end of the day, if you're not connected with yourself, you can't use the connections that you have. You're not going to know what to do. They're not going to it's just like you don't trust the connections you have. You don't trust the connection you have with yourself. So even with all this elitism, it's hard to really pivot and be involved in these things without understanding that it's you that they want. It's you that It's your energy that's needed and necessary there. And I think I learned that from even exiting an ILO and exiting all of these things that, when you wake up and want to be branded every day, because that's kind of what we all do in this country, NIL deals for college athletes, like we just wake up and want to get branded. Like somebody brand me and validate me as the thing that I already know I am, but now I want the world to know and I want them to pay me for that knowledge. It's just an annoying cycle that I'm looking at. So for me, I'm really in a space of understanding that the brand is me, the value is me. And as long as I'm sharpening that brand and value, then I will always be something that somebody wants, something that somebody needs. Okay, I need that. And so I'm never scared of the abundance. I'm never scared of when things aren't necessarily abundant. I know that the abundance is me. And so that's kind of what Summit reminded me of being there, because I'm like, why am I here? And Jeff would tell me every single time, like, you're here because you're the biggest reason why we have people here. It's your energy, it's your vibe, it's your things that are helping this thing grow. So I'm happy to have been the bridge in these communities, but I'm now realizing how they're still not what I hope them to become. They're still not the diverse collective of humans that belong a part of these communities there. And that's just something that's for another conversation. I think as being one of the few Black people in every community I've been in, I always notice and acknowledge that there's a missing link. There's a reason why we are still existing as a separation. And it's like, we don't have enough people there to actually support the coming together. We need more people that are different to actually serve each other in these conversations, in these spaces, so that we do see that there's safety there, that we can come together and not feel threatened, that we can enjoy and love and share that love for each other without feeling like we need to hide that love. These communities hide that love. They hide all these things. I'm like, open up to the masses. Open up with what's possible when you actually cultivate yourself to want to cultivate community. So that's my spiel on that. I didn't want to share too much, but that's what I had on that.
No, I feel you. I feel you. And thanks for the honesty and the candor, because
He froze.
I do, again, definitely echo the fact that it is so important to have that lens of diversity and
Man, what
and
happened?
to be able to feel
He froze.
comfortable opening up and being ourselves. And
I think I can
so
exit now.
I definitely hear where you're coming from, brother.